Hello folks, welcome back again. Wiley here. I have this painting that I did a few days ago to demonstrate the use of an extremely limited palette of colors. In this case it was purple and orange and white. And you know, it doesn't really make for a nice painting, it just gives you something to work from. So I'm going to see if I can come up with it, make a nice painting out of it. You know, as you've heard me say before, one of the great beauties of oil paint is that you can work and rework to your heart's content until you actually feel like you've come away with something that you can be proud of. So I'm going to use this palette. I had just done, if you've watched it, the other video on color mixing, so I've got a bunch of colors left over, so I'm actually gonna work from that palette and see what we come up with. And I'm gonna grab some cerulean blue and some white and kind of try to get a little brown in here again. And I'm saying I want to do a wintry sky, but you know what? I think I want to do a little, oh, maybe that's not it, but something a little brighter. Put a little bit of yellow into it. Just slightly green, a little bit more white, a little bit more medium, and that's it. That's what I'm using. All right, and we're off. So am I going to use this? Yeah, I'm going to use this for the medium color. And I'm going to also add medium to it so that it keeps it transparent. I don't mind if this pink purple kind of peeks through. In fact, I'll probably end up blotting some of this color off just to get that effect, the effect that I want. Let's say in and around the existing tree. Back and forth. See, it's kind of floating because I've got a lot of medium in it. It's kind of floating on the surface a little bit because there's a lot of oil in this color, a lot of medium added. Okay, and let's see maybe where it's gonna peek through and so forth. Something like that. All right, as I said before, I'm quite likely gonna pick some of that up because I really want that orange purple background to kind of come through a little bit. There we go. Just gonna kind of pat and rub until I get the effect that I want. And it's okay to tap over the trees. You know, it all just kind of blends together eventually anyway. All right, that's sort of what I'm looking for. Wipe a little bit more out of the bottom. Okay. Let's see what's next. Another brush over here. Oops. Paint everywhere, as usual. Okay, so let's take some of this, it's like cobalt blue. Tiny little bit of burnt umber, maybe a little bit of this purple. Makes a little bit of the sky coloring. I'm going to tuck in some far away far away, whatever it is. Could be another tree line. That blue creates the effect of distance. Yeah, a little bit more red, it looks a little bit closer. I'm gonna come up higher with this. I want my ridge line or whatever the thing is to come up just a little bit higher. There we go, that's better. More like what I'm after. Okay. Over here too, bringing this tree line, these hills up a little higher. Soften those edges a little bit. All right. Now, let's see. What am I going to do with these trees? Get some sap green going on. Some glaze. A little bit of burnt umber. Yeah, get a nice dark, nondescript shadow color. Place that around. And it's just something like that. Maybe a little more medium. And then the same thing here. Kind of want to work around these bright lights. Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter. I can scrape them right back out if need be. I think this is going to head somewhat into the somewhat impressionistic style of picture when it's done, is my guess. And my light is coming from this upper area here and kind of washing in this direction. Okay, something like that. All right, and then this one here, I think I suggested that was an autumn tree earlier, but what I'm going to do is make it more of a distant color, a little blue-green like this. See how that creates that effect of aerial perspective? That group of trees or whatever it is further back in the scene. So we use a bluer kind of color. We do the same thing over here. We're going to tuck in the tiniest little bit of viridian, because I'm assuming these are the are some sort of evergreen. That's what they look like to me. So sort of floating color left and right over top of this mucky color that was there before. Widening it a little bit, making it just a little broader. And in fact, I think I'm gonna come back over here and strengthen that one up a little bit. Also, tuck some shadow along this side a little bit. There we go. While I've got that color, I might introduce a few bits of brush here and there. All right. Same thing with this. I'm gonna, ooh, that's a strong color. I gotta be careful there. Let's see, what else we got here? Let's see, cut a little burnt umber, a little green, a little this and that. And I'm gonna kind of come in here and just try to create a few darker. See, I need a little bit more brown with that, I think. A little darker shadow here and there in the lower sections and on the left side. Same thing here. I know, haphazardly. I am not a careful painter. I am not a meticulous painter who paints all the separate leaves. I don't work that way. Okay, use that dark somewhere in the foreground also. Clean off the brush. Go for some yellow. See how we do with that. Some yellow green. Creating these bits of leafy, these areas leaves that might be a little, stick out a little bit more so. Stick out a little bit from the shadow. Here we go. Now we're talking. I've used, I think it's cadmium yellow medium, whatever green I had in the brush, and some white. And we get these, you know, these lighter highlights over here. Again, trying to create the effect of the light dancing along on the upper part of the tree. Same thing over here. You can see that I don't always mix my color on the palette. I sometimes mix it on the palette. Obviously, that's what I'm doing now, but as I paint, these colors are going to kind of smush together. In other words, I'll be somewhat mixing the color on the painting or in the painting or in the surface. And let's see, how about, before I get too far afield, I've got this alizarin crimson here, which of course I almost never use. It makes a nice pink, but I'm going to shift it sort of towards the orange side of pink. Maybe some more white, some more thinner, some medium, because once again I want this to be more like a glaze. And you see this nice pink I've got in here? I'm going to try to build that up. Oops, what color have I got going on here? Try to build that up in between all of this. Just by tapping that color around. So I'm going to place the color, and then I'm going to come back and manipulate it some. You'll see what I mean. Just got to be patient. Always when I'm painting landscapes, you got to remember that these trees are not big green cardboard cutouts. They got that sky peeking through always, always. Bits of sky peeking through, so don't forget to add those sky holes all over the place. That's what makes it believable. Okay, so I'm working my way to the right here. Again, placing this pink color across the lower part of the sky. Tap a little higher up here. Like I said, Impressionism. Light touch. There's not a lot of paint left on the brush, but I'm still placing it here and there. All right, just keep painting. Just keep painting, you'll figure it out sooner or later. So I'm just going to keep moving that pink up further and further into the sky, and it's going to interplay with that pink and purple and whatever else I've got going on up there. Create a nice soft effect for your sky. Now you don't want to blend these too much. I want to see these separate brush strokes, because we're not meant to view paintings really close up like this. Sometimes we forget that when we're painting. And I like to leave these somewhat noticeable separate strokes, because it all blends in the viewer's eye when they get back far enough. And it makes a nice effect. Now I know some of you want to mix a color and just paint your sky blue and be done with it, or whatever sky color you might want. But what happens is you get a flat color, and a flat color is not very exciting. There, you must admit, that's a lot better than it was. Some of these little peekaboo tree windows need to be blurred. So we kind of dance around, take care of that. Soften all those up with varying success. Okay. And even after that dries, maybe another day, I may come back and lighten it up too. So, still got this pink color. I also want to have the effect that that color is also kind of interplaying on the greenery. So you have to kind of be careful with this, because this is oil paint, it's all wet, so I don't want to smear what's existing too much, but I do want to place this color around so it looks like light is filtering through. Again, not everywhere. Same with this, whatever this tree area back here is. You see that? I want to pink that all out. Too much pink today, I know. Deal with it. Because you know, the pink and orange and yellow and such can really add atmospheric perspective to your painting. Get that green out of there. Get some more pink in there, right there. And that's what we want. We want to be able to suggest, see now what I'm doing with the same color. I'm going over this this background that I added earlier. And once again, that's creating that atmospheric haze. See, just touching it. Just touching that blue, purple, whatever it is with this pink, and creating this fantastic light effect. It's kind of impossible to get any other way. Again, it is not a flat color, it's a multitude of colors. Oops, a little orange in there. Where'd that come from? Just kind of keep working over there, blending the color in, tapping it in here and there. See all that light? Basically, it's light on a paintbrush, or atmospheric haze on a paintbrush, if you want to think of it that way. You know, it's all that water vapor in the air. The sun bounces off of that, creates this hazy effect. So this is just one of those little tricks. Okay, let's see. Also, I think even in the evergreens, I'm going to have to do a little bit of this because I'm going to push them back also into the distance. There we go. Especially up here where that light is just blasting away. Okay, let's see. Do we have a smaller brush? No, not handy, so I'm just going to use this one. Going to grab some burnt sienna, tuck it in here maybe. A little bit of this green, I don't know, try and make a nice gray bark kind of color. So I can come in here and see. Nope, not dark enough. Okay, back to the burnt umber. Always back to burnt umber. Here we go. So I try to place. Nah, that's just too big of a brush. Oh, there's my small brush. Come on, folks. There it is. All right. Let's try that. This brush is kind of dried out, so it'll be more like scratching limbs in. And of course, I also have this little rubber tool that you've seen me do before. And if you need to pull in a few light areas, that works as well. Although not that good today. I guess the paint is too dry underneath. So we just keep going. Let's say this trunk sweeps up through the middle here. Make it a little stronger. And see, it peeks out or shows here and there. Maybe the branch splits or the trunk splits like that. And we get these sort of sideways branches that are somewhat stronger. Usually after I do that, I find that I have to come back a little bit more of this light color and kind of push them back in there a little bit. There we go. And you can't really do all the details that I want to do until all this paint is dry, so I'll just give up on that to a degree. And put a couple of trunks back here. Same thing with this one. And I'm generally going to pull these limbs towards the main trunk, because that's obviously how these things grow, or outward from the main trunk like this. Pull in that direction. Sometimes I just lay the brush down and pull it like that. That's pretty effective. Every now and then that trunk peeks through. Generally, the limbs either show up in the dark area like that. Come on now. In the dark area like that. Or through what I call these sky holes, okay? The dark limbs do not show up in where this light color is. In fact, to give an example, it's gonna be, you see it's under here, then it skips over this light area, then it goes up there, maybe it goes up like that, goes like that, and then over there. But it does not go over these lighter bits of greenery. And then again, back over to these. See, I'm gonna make this like 3 main trunks. There we go. And you see, of course, how the trunks hide and seek. There we go. And if we can get probably too wet to do this, but I'm going to try anyway. A few of these limbs. Nah, too wet. You can also, again, try this little rubber tool. There we go. See how that works. Generally, the rubber tool kind of moves paint away and creates a little lighter branch peeking through. Okay, where else do we need to work? See, I guess it's all down to the foreground at this point, isn't it? Clean this up a little bit. Okay. Let's see. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to rough out the foreground, and I'm going to come back after it's dried overnight and do some details, because this paint is just too wet, too liquid to lay much down on top of it without it just kind of smushing in. So I'm just going to kind of wash over the bottom here, dull it down, dull it down. Come on, paint. Cooperation, cooperation. Sort of a meadow, a forest. Well, it's not really a forest, but dirty earth, bits of greenery. Maybe I'll jam some flower in there. Maybe we'll make it a flower meadow kind of deal. And softening up a few things as I go along. Oops, didn't mean to take a bite out of that trunk. So I'm gonna fix that little umber right there. There we go. A little bit more here. I'll bring this down a little bit, perhaps. Make this just slightly taller. There we go. And yeah, maybe. Let's have a quick thought. Yeah, I'm gonna let it go with that. Let it dry. More tomorrow or later in this video, because through the magic of editing, I'll just bring it all together. All right, on to the next section. All right, now back to this painting. And I'm finding that this is the one that I tried to that I used to illustrate how to paint with just 2 or 3 colors, a limited palette. And then I worked on it again, trying to turn it into, another lesson. And I find myself just not liking the direction it's going in. So when that happens, I do something ridiculous, like you've seen me do this before, and I probably need a little thinner too. And that's where I'm gonna take this phthalo blue, and I'm just gonna go over the entire darn thing with this really dark nighttime sort of effect. Now, I doubt if this is completely dry from yesterday, so it's likely to make a mess of what's underneath. I don't know. We'll find out. Remember, as I said before, you can salvage almost anything with oil paint. You can just, and I guess in the worst case scenario, you can just sand over it, primer it, gesso it, whatever you call it, and you can start again. And again, I'm using a masonite panel here rather than canvas, which I've come to really detest the texture of canvas for some reason. It's probably because you can't manipulate the paint quite as much as I like to do. You know, with the masonite, you can really do a lot with it. So I'm gonna wipe that down a little bit more. Get some nice nighttime color going on. Maybe go in one direction, then the other. Get it to about like that, and then I usually just kind of pat it to get rid of all my white marks. You can see I'm patting, but I'm rotating the paper towel so I don't end up imprinting like a sponge pattern. And let's see, I think this is going to be a late sunset, so maybe perhaps what I will do is wipe out, let's say, where's the sun going to be? Over here, over there, I think maybe in here. So I'm going to wipe out a little bit of that color. See there? Or maybe across the horizon a little bit. Expose a little bit more of the color that was there before. And then around this tree a little bit, maybe on that side of the tree, and perhaps just a few bits right there. All right, and I don't know, maybe we'll wipe out a couple of areas that we'll use for clouds later. Seeing all that purple and all that, whatever I did before, kind of peeks back through. It already is improved just by pushing everything back. Again, I'm just wiping out with my fingertip here. See that little pink and orange comes out? Isn't that something? So the painting was just too bright. So, all right, I'm gonna let that dry and come back. That's a very thin application. It's got a little bit of Japan dryer in it. So that will probably get worked on a little bit later today or tomorrow if it's not quite ready. So we'll see you then. All right, I'll let this painting set up a little bit more. So I think I can work on it some without disturbing it too much. So let's see, maybe, just maybe, I'm gonna get in here with some red orange. Come on, orange, here we go. Try to imagine where my sun is. Still struggling where it's gonna be. Over here, over there, yeah. Over here, fine, suit yourself. So I'm just gonna peek a little bit of maybe red through like that. All right, that's very strong. So I just want to make it a little larger, make it sink down in the sky a little bit more. All right, peeking through. All right, then maybe pat it off just enough to where that other color peeks through. Clean off my brush and get in here maybe with some pure orange and some medium. And start dancing some color around here. And again, very strong, so you know what I gotta do. If you watch these videos enough, you probably start predicting what I'm going to do, I'll bet you. And that's not an altogether bad thing, because then you might be learning to develop your own instincts by anticipating what I might, or what someone, not necessarily me, someone else might be doing. Boy, I'm stumbling with my words today. All right, and you know, that's sort of working. Maybe spread it around a little bit, but I am gonna blot it all just a little, if nothing else, just to kind of make some of those brush strokes disappear. Coming back with some more paint, I'm gonna work my way across here on the lower section of the sky. I might just salvage this painting, who knows? The thing that you have to think about with light is that it permeates everything. I mean, I really could even just put it over the entire tree like that. In fact, that looks like that's what I'm gonna do, doesn't it? Okay, that's the way it goes. Instead of playing with all these little windows, I'm just gonna hit the whole tree, especially on this. Well, I'm just gonna hit the whole tree and be done with it. Because I was just getting ready to say, that's how light works. It permeates everything. And that looks better. So I hit the pine trees a little bit. And of course, this entire background area, whatever these faraway trees are. Maybe less so over here, because you know, you're further and further from the light. And then trying to get a little bit more paint, even down here in the foreground to a degree. Might as well give this one a little color too, especially in the lower sections. And then, yes, the old paper towel trick. See how that softens all my color. Okay, then I took a little too much away here, so I'm going to tuck a little bit back in. Little bit, not too much. I'm going to bring it up into the sky some. And then obviously, oops, where'd that color come from? Working with a really palette that's been good for half a dozen paintings, and it's without cleaning, it's getting kind of color everywhere, so you gotta watch out. I'm gonna hit the bottoms of these supposed clouds with some of that orange, and we're gonna move it around a little bit. Okay, now let's see. Guess I'm gonna boldly grab some cadmium yellow, maybe cut it with a little orange. See what happens, and then, oh, gonna come across here, placing here and there, some bright yellow. And it's gonna, as I work it, it's gonna disappear a little bit into that orange and red that I used before. Kind of becoming a impressionist painting once again, I suppose. Trying to use a light touch. Kind of hard to do with yellow, you know. Yellow's fact, the one I mixed, that's a pretty strong yellow, so we'll see how it eventually ends up. And as I get further and further to the right, I may lessen the use of that color because, you know, in theory, the further away you get from the light source, the less of that light you're picking up. A little too much there. And then, you know, back in here, tuck some yellow into that field of trees back there, whatever that is. No, 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 come on now. Need a little bit more medium, I suppose. There we go. So I just want to quietly or lightly blend this up into the sky because I want that yellow to change that blue into a very slightly green. See how that works? Again, I have very little paint on my brush and I'm just moving it around. Moving it around. Even way up there. And you see, as I am working, I'm already thinking about my next color. And of course, that's when we get up into these skies. I'm thinking about using some purple, but you know, I'm backing off from that thought. I'm wandering off in another direction now. Because I like this green-blue light that's happening. And I think what's going to happen is this sort of that darkening. I may just continue to lighten the lower area, but I wouldn't be surprised if I don't change my mind and go up here and darken the upper areas a little bit later. All right, so I do need to kind of move this brush around and really do some blending. This is a very soft brush. You may notice that I don't even always use oil painting brushes. I just grab, I use this generally for acrylics, but now that I've started using it for oils, I'll never use it for acrylics again because, of course, the trying to go back and forth, and that would work, but going back and forth between the solvents for oils and the soap and water for to clean out the acrylics, and you know the plastic and acrylics and again the solvents and the oils, it will definitely shorten that brush's life. So I mean, I think I've even used this or this type of brush, the softer, I think it's called a Talon, white Talon. Use these for watercolor. But again, you know, if I use them for watercolor, I will not be using it for acrylics or oils because it just really messes it up. Okay, I'm getting happy, you know. I'm already happy, but you know, I'm getting happy with the painting, I guess is what I mean to say. And you know, again, just messing with it. Again, messing with it. So maybe even some white in with that yellow. I don't know. Just trying to create that little bit, that little glint of light here and there that this tree might be picking up from that sun. Especially around the edges, you know how it goes. You know what I'm doing. Same thing over here, maybe. We're getting there. And then I gotta clean this edge up a little bit. I've lost my field here. There we go. Do a little horizontal something's a little light catching off the brush here and there in the lower section. Okay, and then maybe a little too strong down here, so I want to just push those into the shadow a little bit. All right, so let that go for a while. Come back later today, and later I will be pulling in some of these, repairing some of these trunks that I've erased, you know, and some of the limbs, and then try to pull some of this sky color through the trees. Maybe do some flowers down here, some poppies or something. In fact, we've got some paint. Let's see. How am I gonna do this? What works? Do some of this. Can always wipe it out if it doesn't work. And I want to do like a, oops. Yeah, I do not want to do that. Okay. Don't know what that was coming out of nowhere. More paint. Someplace where it doesn't need to be. All right, so I'm going to do some kind of, you know, suggestion of maybe some color down here. I don't know what this is. I'm just not even going to suggest what it is. I'm just going to paint. And then a little purple again to try to make the foreground disappear, or not disappear, but be subdued to where it's a less dominant part of the painting. We want to focus your attention towards the center of interest up there. And where this purple may hit into the orange, it's going to create a nice brown tone. There we go. A little stronger down here. Get rid of some of that red. And I keep thinking I'm done, and yet, you know, here I am painting. Got pulling a few of these bits of limbs, like I said. See, you put them in and then they tend to disappear as you're fussing about, so sometimes you got to come back in, tuck them back in there. And I guess what I really need is some really little bit darker and a smaller brush. And you don't want to paint, you know, every little limb, you know, these areas. They're not that, I don't want to make them too dominant, you know, they're just where part of a limb might peek through. I'll darken up down here. See, I strengthen this up a little bit here. And then, of course, over here. Always keeping in mind that these limbs, they're not just haphazard. I like to point them towards the main trunk so that it makes some kind of sense. Let's see. It's fighting me because the paint is so wet. And then I'll try to create an area where the trunk might peek through a little more strongly, and then darken up the main area. And lastly, for now, I'm going to re-emphasize these what I call, pre-emergent saplings. Let's just call it that. We got little treelings. Treelings, that's a new word for me. It probably is a new word altogether. And then, we want, because you always have this growth coming out of the forest floor, any unattended meadow. And, you can even lay a few down like they're trampled over, or, they got stepped on, or they're just twigs that fell out of the tree, etc. So, okay. Once again, I'm gonna stop there and perhaps come back later. All right, so we're moving on to add a little bit of color to this painting. This is about the third working session that I've had with this one. I've got a piece of foam core, got my colors all laid out on the palette, starting with titanium white, sap green, cadmium red, light I think that is, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow medium, cadmium yellow light, cobalt blue, raw umber, cerulean blue. Probably more colors than I'm going to use, but they are there if I need them. And then I have my usual array of brushes. Actually, I can't call this my usual array because I left those brushes out without being clean, and the oil paint has turned into stone, so they're off somewhere soaking in some paint remover. So I'm just going to use these white Talon brushes for today, or for this session anyway. All right, so let's see. Grab a little bit of medium as usual, and I believe I'm going to make this a sunrise. So I'm going to bravely grab some of this cadmium red light, and I don't know, some glaze, and I'm just gonna place it here and there around the center. This will probably be where I'll put the sun. So I'm gonna place it out and about here in all these areas. Let it drift away as I go up a little bit. See how I let myself run out of paint as I work my way up. Stronger down here. In between all the places where the color is peeking through the treetops. Strong color, I know, but you've got to, you want to paint, sometimes you've got to be fearless in your use of color and just go wild. Never know what you might discover. I've ruined a lot of paintings that way, of course, over the years, and sometimes I throw them away or stash them in a closet somewhere, or sometimes I wait 10 or 20 years and I come back to them and salvage them with some new ideas. So don't be discouraged if you completely ruin a painting, because you can change it. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. Got this nice red glare, and I'm going to take a little bit of medium and kind of fuzz it out into the leaf part of the tree, because of course, as I say, that the light kind of filters into everything, and it permeates everything, absolutely everything. So you've got to realize that when you're painting, you're going to have red up in the upper parts of this tree, especially on this side maybe. And it's too strong, so we'll blend that a little bit. And it makes it fun. Red is a color that I use very sparingly, but sometimes it does the trick. All right, so I'm fairly happy with that change, but now I need to bring some of this color. I had this line of a forest Perhaps this is a clearing here and this is a forest back here. So obviously that light, that red light, that sunset or sunrise, whatever it is going to be peeking through all of that. Less so as we get away from the sun. As we get over here, less so. And then even maybe a little right here, right in this center section. And you can also maybe wipe a little of that away if you think it's too strong. Let's see, I might come in here with a little bit of this yellow. I do have to put a sun in here at some point. So we'll try something like that. We'll just kind of put it just above the horizon line there. Maybe have it come into those trees and kind of get lost a little bit. Something like that. More of that light filtering through. There we go. And if you're going to do that, obviously, you need to take a little bit of medium, a little bit of the red, a little bit of the orange, and I'm going to hit the lower part, or the lower parts of these clouds here. Because that light filters up into the sky. See how nice that is? A little more. A little more. Wiggle the brush around. There you go. And I think that about does it for that. Now, oh, maybe just a little bit of yellow and white maybe. I hit just on the lower sides of those clouds, just a little bit more light. Probably should be pink. Probably pink is better, yeah. So let's mix up some pink. And put some of that in there. And I'll just kind of rub it in with my finger. No, I like the orange better. So you see, I just keep changing. You can change it to your heart's content. I'll rub a little bit of this out. Actually, rubbing it out looks about as good as anything, doesn't it? Okay, a little orange underneath. No. There we go. That's what I'm looking for, just a little bit. There you go. Now we're getting the hang of it. Okay, just breaking up. A little here, a little there, something else. And I still think I want to darken up the sky a little bit, just along that top edge. We'll see how this goes. So I've got cobalt blue and quite a bit of glazing medium. This is a glaze. What I'm going to do is just wiggle this color around, just kind of along the top here, just to give me a little darkening just along the top like that. Maybe I'll use a bigger brush. You know, I'm always telling people use the largest brush you can work with and don't reach for the small brush until you can't do anything more with the big brush. And sometimes you get that little brush in your hand and you just can't let it go. You want to pick at all the little details, but it's a good idea to just stick with, like I said, the largest brush you can keep in your hand until you can't get enough detail out of it, enough of the tiny, whatever it is you might be trying to do. And then you switch to a smaller brush. Anyway, see how nice this is? See how this takes a little bit of the focus away from the upper part of the sky. And it redirects, if I do it right, it redirects the viewer's interest down into the brighter part of the painting. Subtle, you know, subtle. Along with being bold with like the red sometimes, like I was showing you, you also have to learn to be subtle in other things. And lastly, I think perhaps I've got some of this blue. Try mixing a little bit of this red. If I can get a purple out of this, I can get somebody give me some purple, too red. Here we go. Yeah, tiny little bit of white. Oh, more blue, more blue. Talking to myself, it helps. Helps talking to yourself sometimes. Just want to touch some of this color into the lower part of the painting, if for no other reason, just to add a little darker color. Once again, an attempt to redirect your interest towards the sunlight or the setting sun or the rising sun, whichever it may be. And let's see, give me some more blue. And I think I just want to hit these evergreens maybe one more time, just to emphasize them a little bit. They got a little bit lost during the process, so I want to give them a little bit more dark. And I used cobalt blue and the sap green to do that. Okay. Maybe a little bit more green here and there. A little bit of the raw umber. Don't want them to look too blue. And then let's see, I want to just blot that a little bit, soften those edges. And I think I'm going to live with that the way it is. So thank you for watching, and happy painting.